Hello, everybody. Today's review is going to be of the movie Scream from, well, I guess like the requel is what they kind of call it throughout the film. Now, this wasn't my favorite film in the Scream series. I did only give it a 6 out of 10. I think I might have even filmed a review for this before, but I can't remember if I have or not. It was still in my photos, so I'm going to do a re-review of it if that's the case. It is what it is. We're doing a review of it again. Uh, a few years later, I guess. So yeah, but it did have some of the returning cast members, which was nice, and it was a good nod to Wes Craven. I will give them that. There were lots of little Easter eggs in there, like Drew Barrymore being the voice over the PA system, and who was it? One of the other characters from the very first movie was at the party and says a line like, this dude's kicking us out or whatever. I can't remember which character it was though. Well, I can remember like the face. I just can't put a name to the character. Yeah, but there was lots of little Easter eggs in there. Obviously, like naming one of the characters Wes, and then having the party and saying like, "Here's the Wes," sort of thing. Like there was nods to Wes Craven in this movie, which I thoroughly thought was cool of them to do, because they didn't have to do that for sure. Because obviously, Wes Craven really had nothing to do with this movie in particular in this series, but he did obviously bring the series to life after doing the whole Nightmare on Elm Street movie series. So yeah, definitely have to give a nod to him for directing these movies and bringing the whole horror comedy genre to, back to life, really, is what he did. Because after, I think it was, what was it, A New Nightmare came out, I think that things were kind of starting to die as far as like comedy horror went. And obviously A Nightmare on Elm Street had very, very serious elements of comedy horror in it. Even though it was supposed to be like a slasher flick, it still had comedy in it as well. And I think that those movies just worked, balanced so well, and so does Scream as well for the comedy horror parts in it. But I will say this movie, I don't know, it's hard to say because they did bring back the old cast, which was great, like David Arquette, Courtney Cox, Neve Campbell, Skeet Ulrich. They brought them all back, and they played vital roles in this film just as much as any of the new people did in the movie. And I do like the fact that they had like the bloodlines sort of, what am I trying to say here? It was good that, each person followed the bloodline of somebody else in the movie. So it all kind of tied together in the end, obviously, as to why these people were being killed, right? Because it was just random, like a new random Scream killer, it wouldn't have worked nearly as well. So, yeah, the people that were doing the killing were trying to, pay homage to the original Stab movie, which is what they called it in the Scream movies, right? Um, so yeah, they were trying to pay homage to the original movie, and obviously if they take out the people from the family, knowing that um, uh, Skeet Ulrich's character is the one girl's father. Oh my God, Billy Loomis is her father. Yeah, that's what they were really trying to do, was just recreate the two killers from the original film. And after what was it, like 8 Stab movies, it was just getting a little over the top with the opposite, the slasher stuff that they were trying to do with it, right? So they were trying to bring it back again, these two new killers. So unfortunately, just some of the kills seemed a little underwhelming, especially with the older cast, I will say. Like David Arquette's character, Dewey, unfortunately gets his end in this film. And I mean, it was fitting. He's been in it since the very beginning. But then again, Neve Campbell and Courtney Cox's characters don't get that ending. It's just kind of weird. Like, it seems like, and the new characters, oh my God, they like should have died multiple times, some of them, And it just seems like they get stabbed endlessly and somehow they're still living. Like, it's almost like they're invincible. And I don't like that when they do that in movies, right? Like, getting shot once or stabbed once, okay, you can survive it. But when you've been stabbed like multiple times in multiple different scenes and somehow you're still kicking, just kind of takes away from the um, the whole feel of the film, right? Like, you should be giving equal treatment to everybody, right? If one person's dying, then why are some people getting special treatment? So yeah, we had Nev Campbell return as Sidney Prescott. I'm going over the cast of this now. Courtney Cox as Gail Weathers, David Arquette as Dewey Riley, Melissa Barrera as Sam Carpenter, so she was the daughter of Billy Loomis. Jack Quaid as Richie Kirch, who was one of the new killers. Mickey Madison as Amber Freeman, who was another one of the new killers. Jenna Ortega as Tara Carpenter. Dylan Minnette as Wes Hicks, so that was the character that was obviously named in honor of Wes Craven. Jasmine Savoy Brown as Mindy Meals Martin, and then Mason Gooding as Chad Meeks Martin. So they were brother and sister, and they were kind of like the skeptics of the whole crew, I guess. Like, they didn't really want to be left alone because they were never really sure who the killer was. So they kind of followed like all the horror movie tropes, like the whole look behind you type thing, certain lines you shouldn't say when you're going to be on your own, uh, those kinds of things. And obviously, everybody's a suspect, right? Even yourself, like, you think, yeah, like, technically you would know if you were the killer, right? But they kind of make a point of, showing that technically they could be the killer and nobody else would know. But obviously, all signs kind of pointed to who the killers could be, and I feel like watching this again now, they made it slightly too obvious as to who it could be, because yeah, obviously, Jack Quaid's character, Richie, even Dewey points out, it's always a love interest, especially one that you haven't known for very long, and you know, Sam's only known Sam has only known Richie for 6 months, so it seemed kind of obvious to me that that was a suspect number one. And now that I'm watching this film again, yeah, Amber kind of made it a little obvious that she could have been the killer, because she does point it out when she goes to the basement with Mindy, but she also seems to be awfully close with Tara, and yeah, it just seems like she's almost a little too close with her in a sense, and trying to like be her protector and trying to keep her sister away. It seems kind of odd. Now, I know obviously her sister has been estranged from her for years, and she just dumps all this stuff on her about being Billy Loomis's daughter, and that would be a crazy thing to have just dumped on you after I don't know how many years it was that they were apart. But Sam says to Tara, she just couldn't be around her, and now she's letting her know the truth about what is happening and why Tara was targeted. And it's just, she could have said that years ago, and Tara probably would have taken a little bit more precaution as to, you know, being a little bit more careful about what was potentially coming her way. Yeah, because even she says, like, what were you trying to protect me from? The truth? Like, seems kind of a silly thing to not let your sister know that, you found out this information when you were 13 and you've hid it from her all this time, and now you're telling her after she was almost murdered. Okay, so Sonia Amar as Liv McKenzie, who was, I believe that was Chad's girlfriend, yeah. And unfortunately, she meets probably the most brutal end by just getting shot in the head after we find out that Amber is the first killer anyway. And at this point, obviously, Richie's still trying to hide the fact that he's the second killer. And I will say that being the daughter of a serial killer in the beginning, from the beginning of the movie to the end, it kind of made you think that it was kind of hard to root for her in this movie, because at the end she kind of does become her father in a sense, because she just absolutely stabs the bejesus out of Richie. Like, I lost count after about 5 or 6 stabs. I stopped counting because I was like, okay, I think he's probably dead, or he should be after that, or not be able to talk like he was, because he says, well, what about my ending? And then she says, here it comes, and slits his throat. I'm like, okay, so you are just going full psychopath now for whatever reason. So yeah, I found it kind of hard to root for Sam at the end of the movie. Obviously, you don't want Tara to die because she just kind of been sucked into this whole mess. And now that, uh, Sydney and Gail are back, it seems to be an even bigger mess. And some of the decisions in that house at the very end of the movie, like Sydney jumping for the knife, and obviously I'm like, okay, that's a poor decision. You're going to get stabbed. But the fight scene at the end, it seemed kind of sloppy to me. Like, there were a lot of moves made that didn't really need to be made. And I'm just like, okay, is anybody going to do anything here? Or are we just going to let Amber control the room? And yeah, she was like, one second she'd be fighting them, and then the next second she'd be begging for her life because she didn't want to die. She was just trying to, she was just some kid that got mixed up into this whole situation. It's like, no, you weren't. You've been planning this for quite some time, obviously, if you were able to get Sydney and Gail and Dewey involved in this whole situation. Like, you knew what you were doing, and you knew what the repercussions could be if it failed, right? And unfortunately, if we've seen the Scream movies, we know it never really goes well for the killers, that's for sure. But again, by the end of this movie, it almost felt like Sam was the killer. Like, yeah, because she was the one that ends up murdering Richie. And again, Gail and Sydney end up killing Amber. So it's like, really, I mean, I get it that you're supposed to be rooting for these people, but at a certain point, it's almost like, who are the real killers in this movie? Because even though, you know, even though Billy in the original movie killed a lot of people, they end up killing him in the end. So it's like, yeah, it doesn't really, you know what I mean? Like, I guess it's kind of like an eye for eye type situation. But at the end of the day, again, these people are just walking away from from murdering people. Like, you're not supposed to be able to just walk away from that. And it seems like no matter what, the cops and, every other law enforcement that's there just completely ignores the fact that, you know, somebody was murdered, regardless of who it was, whether it was self-defense or not. You'd still be on trial, which is just crazy to me. So then we have Marley Shelton as Sheriff Judy Hicks, who was obviously Wes Hicks' mother, and that was probably the best kill in the movie. The one scream kill, like the scream killer being able to trick her into coming back to the house and then stabbing her on the porch and then going back inside and killing the son. Like, I was like, okay, that was pretty well planned. And the little voice attachments they had to have the screen voice, or to be able to use a screen voice so that nobody recognized who they were, I thought it was cool too. So there was little things in there that I thought were good in this film, but again, there was a lot of things that I thought were a little sloppy too, obviously. And then we had Skeet Ulrich as Billy Loomis, and man, I don't think that guy has aged since Scream 1. He still looks pretty young for being how old he is now, anyway. And then we had Kyle Gallner as Vince Schneider, who had some sort of connection with not Billy Loomis, but oh my God, why can't I think of the other guy's name now? And that's the house that they end up in, was the house that Billy and, oh my God, that's going to bug me now that I can't think of the other guy's name. Oh, crap. Anyway, it was a house that Billy and his accomplice, that for some reason is just absolutely slipped my mind right now. And I should know. I should know, but it's gonna come to me after I do this review. I just know it. Anyhow, that's the house that they ended up in. Was that the one that they did all the killing in? And he was connected to him somehow. The other killer from the original Scream movie, or Stab movie, I guess, if you want to call it that. But yeah, we all know he's connected to the Scream movie. Oh my God, Billy Loomis and wow, I can't believe I can't think of his name right now. Huh. That's gonna bug me. It's gonna bug me because I'm gonna have to go look that up after this review. But anyway, 6 out of 10 for this movie if I didn't already say that, and I will see you guys in the next review. Bye bye for now.